So one of my favorite all-time YouTubers is this cat named Mike Falzone. And I'm going to talk about one of his videos briefly. I will leave a link down in the thing. Is TSA getting ready to have a parade? So Mike recently put up a podcast about being spit on. Apparently, not once, but twice. Now, the first one was an accident, but still sent him into a rage, ready to kill a guy. And who wouldn't want to kill a motherfucker if they spit on you? The second one was on purpose. He's in the car, in traffic. He has to loop the block, go back, look for him. And his thought was, I think the third person is gonna die. Is gonna pay for not only the other two, but, and I'm interjecting my own words, but probably every other wrong that's ever been done. And why wouldn't you? About a year ago, me and my son were boarding an airplane, and this jackass behind us says, that suitcase isn't gonna fit in the overhead. And I'm ignoring him because I know the suitcase does fit in the overhead. I'm on a plane every week. This suitcase is in the overhead every week. I have observed people trying to put things that you know damn well aren't gonna fit in there. This big, giant suitcase, a steam trunk, lawn tractors, baby grand pianos, you name it. And they're like, but I always travel with this. I always put it up. No, you have to check it. You should have shipped it FedEx, really. And this is not an airline employee. This is just some guy in line behind us to get on the plane. And he starts yelling at us adamantly, it is not gonna fit. I said, brother, if it doesn't fit, it's the first time. He responded with, well, you're the boss. No, clearly the way you bark out orders to people you never met before on a place where you have no authority whatsoever, that makes you the boss, doesn't it, jackass? But I only said that in my head. Outside, I just shrugged and went, whatever. Then there was the guy who was adamant that I had stolen his seat. He had the window seat, by God. He did, on the other side of the plane. We figured that out when the flight attendant calmed his shit down, but not before he had cussed me and called me every name that you could think of. We can settle this. I'll take your seat, because you're just an asshole. In my head. Didn't say that at all out loud, because no matter how wrong the other person is, fighting with them solves nothing. I have this friend named, well, let's call her Caramel. Caramel? Caramel? Car. Anyway, she's never been on a plane, not once in her life. And I just happened to be video chatting with her at the airport when they called the boarding stuff. So we get on the plane that's already delayed. I've got my earbuds in, and we're just chit-chatting away. And I'm showing her like, yeah, there's what it looks like from inside the plane. And she's like, well, how long does it take? Well, they give a bunch of announcements, and they go through all this bullshit and that bullshit and what have you. And then eventually you push back, and then it could be 5 minutes or an hour. You just never know. And then the guy in front of me turns around and looks at me disgusted and said, could you please just not talk for the next hour? I was so stunned, I didn't know what to say. I just stared at him for a second. And he continues, he goes, your fucking talking is interfering with my reading. He was my third guy. I verbally hulked out on him. And I said, I don't give a shit. And he just stared back at me. He couldn't believe that I barked back. I said, you mind your own business, turn around. Now in retrospect, it's clear that this guy has something against people talking on airplanes, and equally clear that I was his third guy, and he had had enough because there was no lead into it. I mean, he didn't just turn around and go, hey man, that's kind of disturbing. I'm trying to read. Could you wrap it up in the next minute or two? I mean, he just turned around and exploded on me. Wow. So at this point, I'm like, okay, pal, it's on. And I start telling him exactly what I think of his attitude. And I'm kind of getting a little louder as I'm doing it. And then I make some guesses about his ancestry and some predictions about his immediate future. And I realize the guy next to me is taking out his earbuds to see what the hell is going on. And people around us are starting to look. We're starting to garner a little attention here. And that's when it dawns on me that the only thing anybody really heard is me ripping this guy a new one. And that's when I start to think, you know, they chuck unruly passengers off planes, and that's me right now. And mind you, everybody on the plane's already in a bad mood because we just boarded, thought we were pushing back when they announced we were going to be sitting there for another hour. So he turns around, sits down in a huff. I realize that everybody's staring at me. And so I just kind of sink into my seat thinking, man, I'd like to slap this fool in front of me, but I can't. I turn back to my friend cker, let's just call her C. And I said, C, I think I need to get off the phone here. Crowd is turning on me. And she's like, yeah, okay. It was the most awkward thing ever. And I got off the phone, and you won't believe what happened next. The same guy that had just been cussing me a minute before immediately spun around in his chair. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. He was like, thank you so much. You were so considerate. And so I find myself apologizing back to him because I was a little embarrassed that I'd lost my shit like that. We had a hug fest. We sang Kumbaya. I turned to the guy in the seat next to me to apologize to him, but he was all like, so fuck that guy. But an hour later when the plane landed, he had calmed down and allowed me to apologize and accepted it graciously. So unfuck that guy or whatever. So while you need to do everything you can to avoid being the third guy, don't ever take a lot of shit from the third guy. Stand your ground. As long as it doesn't get you lynched on a plane. Just saying. Mike, next time somebody spits on you, wreck that fool. But I pray to God I'm not in LA and happen to spit when you're driving by. I'll take the beating. I will.